Alright everyone, welcome to Street City Studio. I'm John. In today's video, we're going to do a little bit of talking instead of playing with toys. Normally, we've been playing with a lot of toys in my videos. So, just a heads up, this is a different kind of video slightly. I think I'm mostly just going to be talking here. I'm not going to move anything around or be setting anything up, you know. Normally that's a big part of what I'm doing. So just a heads up, it's a bit of talking video. But I kind of wanted to talk about some of the words of wisdom I live by, right? I'm a big fan of little one-liners and quips and catchy, little proverbs and adages. If you're not real sure what I mean, like some good examples are time flies when you're having fun, or watched pot never boils, right? Those kinds of things, right? Just simple things that I think are pretty much universally agreed on, even though not necessarily scientific fact, right? Like time flies when you're having fun, right? Time doesn't actually fly when you're having fun. It just, to your perception, it goes by quicker, because you're not paying attention to every little second, So it just seems to go by quicker. And likewise, a watched pot never boils is a perception of time dilation issue. Maybe that's a complicated term. There's some big words there, but it's the same thing. It's a perception of time, and it's not like time is actually slowing down. But if you sit there and count every second and watch every second, I think it tends to pass a little slower. But if you find other things that are entertaining and pleasant, it goes by a little quicker to your perception if you're not watching the clock, so to speak. But some other ones maybe like squeaky wheel gets the grease, or the squeaky mouse gets the cheese. Those are some I've heard before, right? And those are pretty good ones. And they kind of, mean the same thing basically. But one's a wheel and one's a mouse, right? But like others, like nothing ventured, nothing gained. And likewise, I know a lot of bodybuilders use a similar one, no pain, no gain, right? Because if you don't experience the muscle fatigue from working out, you're not going to develop bigger muscles, right? So no pain, no gain, and that's very much true, I think, right? Nothing ventured, nothing gained, no pain, no gain. Those are pretty much saying the same thing, right? Just slightly different wording for different context, maybe. Right? Seek and you shall find, right? And build it and they will come, right? Those are kind of in the same vein too. But one I wanted to talk about, especially one of my favorites, is the juice worth the squeeze, right? And that's a simple one to understand, kind of on the surface level, but a deeper understanding too is important, right? You really can apply that to almost anything in life, right? If you understand what it means, right? Is the juice worth the squeeze, right? If you don't like oranges, right, why are you going to spend your whole life or your whole day squeezing oranges to get orange juice, unless you plan to sell it or something? But again, right, is it worth the squeeze? Like say you don't like something tougher like coconut, right? You're going to work hard to get some coconut juice if you don't like the coconut, right? But I think you get what I'm saying. That can be applied in a broad sense to lots of situations and just life in general, I think, right? Everything you do. And I think that's why we're talking about them. I'm a big fan of proverbs and adages, right? Like I said, these little one-liners, because they can be applied almost universally, right, across the board. And used like a compass sometimes, right? Just if you need some advice or some guidance, right? I know I've turned to some of these over and over and over again in my life, right? Don't count your chickens before they hatch, right? That's a good one. I've probably spared myself a lot of grief anytime I've been reminded to stop and not count my chickens before they hatch, right? You don't want to count on something that might not pan out, right? Many hands make light work. That's a good one, right? I don't think anybody would argue that. I think we could all agree that that's fact, right? Some other words like picture's worth 1,000 words, right? How true is that? Especially as a aspiring photographer or whatnot, you know. I can definitely say I think pictures can say a lot, right? Especially in such a brief moment where you don't have to, right, write a whole page or read a whole page or a whole paragraph even. It's just you get a quick glimpse and you have an impression already, right? But what's another one's like no use crying over spilt milk, right? That's a good one. I know I've used that a lot of times, especially, right, in situations, right, where the milk's already spilt. It doesn't do any good, crying about it doesn't put it back in the bottle. Right? You just gotta accept that it's been spilt and move on, right? Get you another glass of milk or another bowl of cereal or whatever and move on. And certainly, some situations are definitely worth crying over, right? But again, you gotta ask, is it worth it, right? Is the juice worth the squeeze? Is this situation worth crying over? And spilt milk isn't worth crying over, right? And definitely, get you crying out and then move on, right? Get you another bowl of milk. But yeah, I had a little list here, and I'm a big fan of some of these adages, right? Like I said, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, and the squeaky mouse gets the cheese, right? I know personally, right? I don't like to make a lot of noise sometimes, and so, people might not think I need help, but often I'll find myself scratching my head like, why isn't anybody helping me? And you can be easy to overlook, right? Easy to overlook that maybe you didn't ask for help, right? And that's okay. That's a good time to reassess, all right? Trying to think if there's any that apply to that. I don't know. But yeah, so like seek and you will find, right? If you don't seek help, you can't find help, right? And so, I've made like a list. Like I like to keep them in my head, but I've kind of made a list here, right? Just a scribbly note list, and you can kind of just take any handful of them and apply them, right, into I'm trying not to say cyclical logic, or a logic loop, right? Because you don't want to get stuck in a loop. But I think the point is some of these can be very helpful when used appropriately. And words, and that's the whole point of me having the flaming book there, right? Words are powerful, and words can be very useful tools, right? And especially, like I said, I'm a big fan of one-liners and adages, right, specifically. And there's a difference, right? Like idioms and aphorisms, right? I'm not talking about idioms, right? I'm talking about adages. And aphorisms are nice too, you know, but adages and proverbs, right? One-liners, I like that you throw them out at anybody, and pretty much nobody's going to argue unless they're just confrontational people that are looking for something to debate, you know what I mean? But like you're in a crowd at work or somewhere, you kind of say any of them, really, right? Time flies when you're having fun, or watch pot never boils, or kind of any of them. You throw one of them out there, and pretty much the whole crowd's going to be, yeah. Or at least that's my experience. And not to say, right, I'm not doing it for the crowd necessarily, but just to get my point across, that these are things I've found just because I've noticed that they're commonly accepted, right? I'm not a highly educated guy, so I've just kind of had to pick things up as I go. And I've always liked the real clever, quippy one-liners like those, right? Make you think a little deeper, and walk away feeling like you walking away with something that you didn't show up with, maybe, you know? like a tool almost, like a compass, or like a knife out on a trail when you didn't have one, or something. You know what I mean? I find a lot of them to be useful, and I think that's about it, you know? It's not the longest video, not the most toys or anything, but kind of just wanted to throw that out there, that if you're ever feeling a little confused or lost, maybe think about some of them. Some of them adages will really get you through feeling like you're lost in the woods, or stuck in the mud, you know? That's all, really. That's all. But I appreciate you guys coming by, as always. If you want to check me out on Facebook, you can follow me on Facebook. If you want to check out my photography, I'll put my photography always goes up on Instagram. I'll leave the links in the descriptions for all that. If you want to check them out, they're always in the descriptions down there. But anyways, I appreciate you guys coming by, checking out my videos. Have a good rest of your day. Keep playing with them toys. I'll talk to you again soon.